How do you end up becoming a game designer?
I learned to code. I was making very small games, things just for entertaining. I made a battleship copy. I made a chess game.
Back in 2014, I don't think there were enough colleges or enough information about these colleges from India. How did you?
I had this belief that if I want to make video games, maybe I need to study it. Bet on doing a journalism degree had not worked out.
How does a VC make money?
If I am a VC, I will set up my business, I will build my thesis, then I will go to people, whoever they may be, and say, look, I am looking for investment in my fund. If you believe in what I'm doing and my ability to get you a return on investment, then please give me money. $10 million, you will make $20 million on that one guy.
Talent that you guys have is to figure out of those 4,000 applications, you figure out 500 good ones, then you filter out 20 good ones, and then you invest in 10.
Correct.
Got India Games. 4 months I got fired.
Yeah.
I was coming back home, crying all the way. My mom opened the door and I told her. She started laughing. Okay, I am super excited to welcome Shagun to the very first episode of my podcast. We call it the Great Indian Gaming Podcast. How do you feel about the name?
I am super excited. I love the name, and I'm glad to be on this episode with you, VAIBHAV. We're going to do some great things.
See, basically, I'm quite thrilled for this whole thing, the podcasting. I wanted to know your opinion also, because we've been speaking about the Indian gaming industry for so long. What do you think about a dedicated podcast for this? Does the community need it right now?
I think 100%. If you look at the characteristics of the Indian games industry, so many of us just work in silos.
Yeah.
If you look at the big guys, or the biggest studios in the country are the Zyngas, the EAs, the GSMs. They don't need to make a podcast. And I think what we really need is some kind of source for young talent, for all of us to just think about how success is happening, where success is found, how do you operate sensibly in India, and what the market actually looks like. So this is superb. There's nothing out there that helps us cater to our needs.
Yeah, glad. I think we'll try and get in a lot of talented folks, not just from the metropolitan, but also from the tier 2, tier 3. People are doing amazing shit.
Absolutely. You're going to get the next big hit of India is going to come out of, I think, Kochi, Coimbatore or something.
Yeah. I think you also remember last IGDC, we met this guy from Nagaland.
Yeah. Pekru. That guy's a killer.
Dude, the game is fucking amazing.
It's super. Reminds me of, what's that game?
Sojourn Past. That's the game.
Sojourn Past is his.
Yeah.
Yotan. It reminds me of Thunder Lotus's Yotan. Same aesthetic. Little Hyperlight Drifter.
I just was about to say Hyperlight Drifter is the exact wow. And what kind of humility, bro. These people, and in general, these people are quite, reserved but humble enough to.
I think it's the right attitude for a game dev, right? You just want to make great games and everything else doesn't matter. And I'm glad that, gentlemen like him also. Young guy, but he got the afternoon. He's, we need guys like him to succeed.
Yeah. So. Cool. Tell me about you, man. How did it all start for you?
Okay. I wrote down a whole bunch of different origin stories. So I reached into a hat and
you call yourself a game designer, right? Like what is a term that you use? A game designer, product guy, what is it?
So I still call myself a game designer.
Okay.
Sometimes game developer when we're just talking in public. But ultimately my work has been in actually the design of the game. The math, the systems is where I really specialize. And just overall the product experience,
Yeah. But you know coding as well?
I can code, I can draw. I did a diploma in computer graphics, so I've written a few shaders myself, done a bunch of 3D modeling back in the day. But all of that just feeds into prototyping and making games.
Elaborate on that story of how did you start coding?
So self-taught developer. When I was in school, I was doing technical drawing, which I think is the best class I ever did because it helped with my spatial reasoning and just, thinking about how to imagine levels. But as with all great stories, it starts with a girl. I was 14 years old.
Also, most of it ends with a gun.
So in the school where I studied, there used to be the school prom. And when I was 16, when I was 14, I did not have any guts and I had no game, only video games. So there was this girl and I wanted to ask her to the social.
Okay.
She's a very sweet person. I'll leave her unnamed in case she hears this someday. But I said, chalo, the only way that I could do this was I'll make a game.
Yeah.
And so I learned to code in C++ back then. Went and made a Mario clone.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not that hard to actually make a Mario clone. Chalo, bana diya 3 level pe, and I had this one bright blue floppy disk. मैंने उस पे डाला. And I went and wrote some nice messages and I gave it to her. I was like, look, just please play this game and whatnot. It's something fun I made for you. And then I wait for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, nothing happens. She doesn't come back to me. And the idea is that when she finished the game at level 3, there'll be a message saying, game over, you win, listen, please go to prom with me.
Okay.
And then I go back to her after a week and a half and I'm like, hey, listen, did you play my game? And she's like, yeah, I played 5 minutes, but it was too tough, so I never finished it. And I was like, okay, chalo, at least I learned the code.
Yeah, I think...
Never got the girl.
Yeah, did that inspire you to become a game designer? To actually, build the right progression for the user.
I don't think I knew what progression was back then. No, but actually, I've always wanted to make video games. I'm one of those kids. Had the very good fortune at a young age to, my dad got a computer in his office when I was 6, 7.
Okay.
And I think everyone in Mumbai had this one Windows 95 ka CD that stood around.
Yeah.
And on that was a Wolf demo, a Dangerous Dave demo, Road Rash, and an Age of Empires demo.
True.
And I started playing those.
Yeah.
But I actually got, as a gift, these games by Knowledge Adventure and Discovery Channel.
Okay.
Which were educational games. There was a lovely one called Skytrip America.
Okay.
Point-and-click adventure where you travel through time delivering mail across points in American history. I learned way too much about American history, but superb game. Great polish, great experience for a 1994 game. So played it around 1997, 1998. And that actually sat with me.
Okay.
For the longest time, that love of these experiences. And then the first video game I got actually was Need for Speed. And then Command and Conquer, Tiberian Sun.
Looks like you had a much better PC than me. I had a black and white. So there was this Pentium 4, Pentium 3, Pentium 2, Pentium 1, 486, 386. I had the 386 black and white with no CD-ROM into it. It's a black and white with 8 MB RAM. So yeah, continue.
No. So this was my dad had got it for his office.
Yeah.
So I used to go to his office and sit and play it there. And I don't think he liked that. But then he bought these games for himself.
Oh, really?
And then, he bought some few other games and all. Journeyman, Project Turbo. Man,
yeah, never
some
heard.
random point-and-click games and some random stuff. It was horrible. But yeah, I used to play NFS. I was very bad at playing NFS. Okay. And then eventually my father brought the computer back home because my mother also liked it and she wanted to play Solitaire. And my building friends used to love this thing. Like, okay, there's a computer here, chalo. And then they knew NFS more than me. I didn't know anything. And so they used to all come and play NFS on my machine. But since it was my computer, I was like, listen, you have to put my initials when you win the race because that's called delegation. I am ultimately a Gujarati boy.
Yeah.
I learned business early on.
Crazy.
But yeah, it was actually Command and Conquer that really sat in my head.
Okay.
And made me want to just want to make video games somehow, somewhere, someday. And then everything sort of stemmed from that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you really, go to a proper game design school to learn? Then how do you end up becoming a game designer?
So I taught myself to code, right? And then it was fun. I genuinely love coding. And a cool thing that I think people don't realize is that coding is not actually very difficult to get into.
Yeah.
It's not super mathematical beyond a point. It's easy to just learn the language and get going.
Yeah.
And today it's never actually been easier. But I learned to code. I was making very small games, things just for entertaining. I made a battleship copy. I made a chess game.
Dude, at that time, I think, like if you can even do like a simple ball on a screen, that was like the victory for you.
Pretty much.
We did that a lot in college on Q Basic.
Yeah.
In school in Q Basic, and in C, I think C normal blue screen in college, and that was like, dude, I made a game.
It was beautiful. It was really. Today it's so much easier to do this. You just fire up like
and we have
Visual Code and
we have a bunch of youngsters making the AAA titles with just drag and drops from either from Unreal or Crytek.
No, it's never been easier to make video games.
Yeah.
I think distribution is what the challenge is now.
True.
But so my journey in games actually started out like a self-taught coder. I wanted to study video games and game design. Didn't really know anything about that. My mother was very supportive of the whole thing, and she was like, "Look, let's find a course for you. Let's do this." But even she didn't know, and this was 2005, 6, 7. I mean,
okay.
Also,
Very
yes,
early.
very old Vaibhav.
Very early.
But so what we did is we spoke to a couple of career counselors. We did what we could. College, I went to HR college.
Okay.
Right? I had a very normal BCom degree. And karte, we spoke to counselors and we were like, okay, so want to work in video games. And the most common thing I would hear is don't do it. This is all rubbish.
Yeah.
Get a normal job in marketing or, do something respectable. And the more enlightened counselors would say things like, once you've gotten good work experience in a respectable job like advertising or marketing or something.
It's interesting when you talk about, when you stress on this word respectable a lot.
Keep saying it to me.
Exactly, because
I hated it.
yeah, I can totally relate to it because in 2007 I got India Games. 4 months I got fired.
Yeah.
I was coming back home crying all the way. The moment I opened the door, like my mom opened the door, and I told her that I was fired from a job, I was crying. She started laughing. She started enjoying the fact that, oh, finally he's back to his IT stuff. Now we can relax, because it was honestly not a career at that time.
It was not.
People actually didn't believe.
I think, if from a young age, if you had a chance to play video games, you were a very fortunate person.
Yeah.
It's not the normal experience for 99% of kids in India. Yeah.
True.
The most normal advice I got was do this job, work till whatever age, do an MBA, go to a very nice college. You must get into some top college. And then, once you've made all this money, invest in a games business.
Yeah.
I was like, at 50, I'm not going to invest in a game. I want to make video games. Yeah. I think, wherever for so many of us who come into this medium, it's a calling. It's how we express ourselves. It's the stuff we dream about. Every day, it's just, I want to make video games.
True.
Who wants to do advertising when you do that? I did advertising, by the way, for a bit. So the deal with my parents was, okay, do a BCom. It's proper, normal, gives you opportunities. While I was doing my BCom, I did a diploma in computer graphics. So I was at HR college at Churchgate, and then I was going to Xavier's college in the afternoon to do an XIC. That they taught animation and stuff.
Okay.
A very good course, actually. And XIC was famous for doing a lot of like media vocational stuff like photography, journalism, whatever. They had tried this one experiment. They had tied up with this place called Toon School, which was like a Mac Maya type place. Very good program. Learned all the pieces around using Maya, Photoshop, whatever. Everything from building out models to animation rigging, the full texturing. Back in the day, you had to do those whole UV map unpacking in Photoshop. It was a nightmare, but did all of that.
Yeah.
So finished my BCom, finished that, was still making games, building my portfolio. At this point, I had about 20, 30 games. Maybe 2 were actually decent.
Yeah.
1 was a battleship game, which I worked on for a very long time. So it actually was halfway decent, and I used this learning to put some graphics to it and do some fun things. So, and then my degree was a year and a half. The diploma was a year and a half. So I finished that.
Which year was this?
This is 2008.
8.
Yeah. I did my BCom 2008 to 2011. By 2000, 10, I had finished off with this degree or this diploma also.
Okay.
So I said, Chalo, let's get a job, let's do something. And so there was a company called Draft FCBO ka ad agency, big ad agency also. And I went to them, their office was near my college, so I could just walk over in 5 minutes. So I said, look, I'm interested in a job. And I think I was a bit too cocky back then. So I was like, I bet I can write better than your copywriter. And the HR guy was like, okay, fine, come, let's do a test. He liked me. I was over 18. They gave me a job. It was some 12, 14,000 bucks a month.
Yeah.
And I was working as a copywriter there for some time. Very good experience, good people, good learning also of just how to craft copy, what it means to work with clients and so on and so forth. Some of it was funny. We were doing copyright, content and campaigns for ICICI Bank Singapore branch, which was trying to make Shah Rukh Khan do a ramp walk or something.
Okay.
It was damn funky stuff, man, that we did, whatever. But felt that, look, I made a little bit of money over there, some savings. All salary was good salary back then.
Yeah.
But felt like this is really not what I want to do. And I was there for shade of maybe a year, maybe a little less. And then I quit.
Okay.
I was like, I don't want to do this.
It was in Mumbai?
Yeah, it was Churchgate, right next to HR college, 2-3 minutes walking. So it was a very easy job to also have. And at that point in time, so I finished my BCom, I was working this job, and I found out about KC College and Mumbai University had a media program.
Okay.
KCBM is quite a big one. So KC and Jahan are famous for it. Yeah. So they had started this Masters in Communication and Journalism. And back then, I still thought that games were media, not tech or not entertainment tech. So I said, okay, I'll do this and I'll be able to move towards media from a business degree.
Right.
So I signed up for it. I got in, learned very quickly that it had nothing to do with anything. We learned more about journalism. Good program. But while I was doing that, I started researching video games. My thesis there was on transmedia.
Okay.
Back then, this was transmedia for the audience is a phenomenon sort of put together by the scholar Henry Jenkins.
Yeah.
Talking about culture, fandoms, and how a piece of content and IP, let's say a Star Wars, starts existing across movies, games, books, comics, merchandise, everything. Transmedia.
Got it.
Today, it's the most normal thing everybody does.
Yeah.
This is how it started. Right? Star Wars was the big one, and then Harry Potter. So I started researching that. And that led me to start a small gamification business. I said, chalo, main bhi kar lunga India mein.
Okay.
So I went back to my old ad colleagues and I said, look, I'll gamify your experiential marketing campaigns. So experiential marketing is a type of advertising where you do live things, fun things. So I started making small live games for that.
Okay.
So that was a business called Chaos Theatre. I had started it as a sole proprietorship. And I was doing that for about 2.5 years. Made some money, did some good work with guys like BMW, with Godrej. It was interesting work to do. But realized very quickly that I had no idea of how to run a business. I did not want to scale it. I was making okay money for myself as an employee.
You were more into the creative side of it. You were more into the execution side and not a lot into the business side of it.
Absolutely. I knew nothing of it.
Yeah.
And a sole proprietorship doesn't have too many liabilities, but I didn't know how to crack a good deal.
Yeah.
So
usually that happens with people who, who are great at product and, execution, and they actually want to jump. The first couple of years are like...
It's a hard, painful journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So did that 2.5 years, realized I couldn't scale it. Had a few colleagues, people I used to work with, and this one guy was like, look, you give me everything, I'll pay you a lump sum for it. I said, chalo, theek hai. So I got that. At that point in time, I said, okay, you know what, I would like to study some more. I had felt that I did not have the education I wanted that would equip me to do the work I wanted to do. So a very random thing happened. I started applying to game design programs around the world. I applied to MIT, I applied to USC, for a scholarship, for everything. I applied to NYU. NYU Tisch has a game center, top places. And I got into none of them.
I have a question here. See, which year was it? 2012, 13?
2014.
14. I still meet youngsters. I still meet people who at this, in this era also, they ask me about, are there any colleges out there outside India where you can apply to become like a game designer, so for a master or something like that. Back in 2014, I don't think there were enough colleges or enough information about these colleges
Yeah.
from India. How did you actually, made up that mind of, okay, I'll look for these scholarships, or a thought that these kind of things even exist that I could actually do?
So I started by looking domestically,
Okay.
right? Looked at Maya Mac. They had these things where we teach you game development, video games. It was all faff.
Yeah.
And I read and I knew enough about making a game that I was like, this is not teaching me anything that I don't know, and they don't even teach you to code.
Right.
Right? I mean, you're saying that you teach me how to make a 3D model. That's not going to help me make a game.
Yeah.
And one of the things about the animation industry back then was that as a technical guy, you got paid very little, and you didn't even get to have any creative expression. It wasn't really lucrative work in India back then. So I just went on Google and started looking. I actually said, chalo, just for fun, let's just look for all the top places and see who's doing game design programs. Found a few blogs in the US.
Yeah, but the idea was game design. Like the focus was game design.
I had this belief that if I want to make video games, maybe I need to study it. Because my bet on doing a journalism degree had not worked out.
Okay.
In my reckoning, I didn't have that self-belief also, even though I was already making games.
Yeah.
I didn't actually, my biggest failure is that I did not know that India Games was hiring, nor that it was actually a thing. Because where did India Games also publicize? I knew Games to Win was a place because they had come recruiting once.
Yeah.
Went there, but the energy over there and maybe the way it operates was not really something that resonated with me.
Yeah, till date.
So I didn't feel that was the right bet for me to make.
Yeah.
So I didn't go ahead with that. But I think they're still doing well for themselves. So good luck.
Yeah. Fun fact about Games to Win is that, today, most of the people who are running businesses, like gaming businesses, I think 70-80% of them have gone through the Games to Win phase, learned a lot of stuff, what to do, what not to do, and then got into this business. But I think for me also, Games to Win was one of the greatest learnings.
Absolutely. I mean, respect to Alok for pulling it off. I mean, it's kept a business going. I believe it does what it does well.
Yeah.
I don't follow them much anymore, but it's sustained so many years.
I say this because they taught me what to do.
Yeah.
Plus, they taught me what not to do.
I think back then everybody was figuring out, but if you were if you were a West Coast guy, in Bombay, Pune, you worked at Games to Win or you worked at India Games, maybe Hangama Game Shastra. Hangama.
Yeah.
And that was it, right? And then 2012-13 is when Zynga came up in
Yeah.
But before that, where could people get opportunities also?
Absolutely. I didn't find any company. So Games to Win was also like, for me, it was like just break the door.
Absolutely.
Because there was no other company, and I didn't have that opportunity to go outside of Mumbai and look for a job. So for me, Mumbai was the place. Look for a company. I got one, and I just broke the door. That is what happened. And then Zynga came in.
No, absolutely. So yeah, I looked at all these places abroad. Didn't get into any of them because whatever. I didn't get a scholarship, so that didn't work out.
Okay.
And then one of my buddies said, one day she calls me and says, listen, I have got into the London School of Economics. I'm going to do a media and economics degree. So I was like, what is this? And then she told me about it, and then in the morning, and then I started researching across the afternoon. I was like, hey, this is damn interesting. And my brain once again said this thing that, if you go to the UK and you go here, you can still create some opportunities for yourself and you can maybe work in the UK games industry.
Yeah.
So in one day, I just did the application. I didn't expect to get in also. Wrote the thing, one edit, sent it off. I sent it in June, and the applications were shutting in a week. Okay. And then 3 weeks later, in the middle of the night, I get an email that I've been accepted.
Crazy.
I said, okay, damn good. So suddenly now, chalo, Shagun is going to do a behavioral economics degree. Not bad. Didn't expect that move in my life. So my degree at LSE was officially called an MSc in Media and Communication. Very research-oriented degree, and because it's an economics college, a lot of your subject matter is very data-driven, statistics, a lot of thinking, a lot of rigor.
Got it.
And my courses included a behavioral economics program, course, game theory,
Does that help in user experience, user behavior?
150%. I think that actually was a blessing in disguise, or twofold, because it helped me really understand how players think and how to
Okay.
take these learnings. And it's behavioral economics, how you feed that to building game systems, how do you create experiences that are compelling enough to make players pick up the game, engage, retain, and spend.
Got it.
And
How long was this course?
it was a 1 year program, but one of the great benefits is you had to pick a media, some kind of media artifact, as they say,
Okay.
to research.
Okay.
So I said, chalo, I will research World of Warcraft. मैं तो
Okay.
खेलता था.
Damn good.
So I said, chalo, I will research that game. So I interviewed about 2,000 people and over a year and mapped out why they pick up this game and who they are when they come. What is their persona? Right? What makes them spend every month on a subscription over years and years and years, and how their motivations to play change.
Okay.
That was a very well received research piece. It was a thesis, my dissertation. That got published and presented at Oxford University. Google came along, the Google Creative Lab, saying, we like what you're doing. Will you do a bit of research work for us? So while I was in London, I had a chance to do a little small project for them where they paid for my research and did a bunch of things.
Okay.
And that also let me get a bit of work done with a few AAA studios that were making strategy games. There's another thing that's important to maybe highlight in my life is I'm a huge Warhammer nerd. Huge Warhammer nerd. And so I applied to a creative assembly that was doing Total War Warhammer at the time. And they anyway wanted some consultants and people to come as freelance to do, who could help with lore, who could help with economy and whatever. So I did that for a little bit as well. Great experience, got to nerd out doing that work. And around that time, though, I was on a student visa, so you can't work full time. And then I saw that India Games had been acquired. Little late, I think it happened in 2012.
Yeah.
12, 13. Disney Interactive had been doing whatever it was doing well, and now I believe it was shutting down at that point in time.
Yeah.
And I found myself in conversation with a lot of people who were leaving Disney, India Games / Disney Interactive to start their own businesses. And those conversations turned out really productive. And one of them, a very fine gentleman, was like, come work with me and we'll do some good work together. And, this sort of feeds back into the idea that I had that, I had tried to do One Piece in games in my youth and I had failed because I didn't understand the business. So I gave myself this goal that I'm leaving any opportunities on the table in the UK because I want to see big success in games. And if you work over there, you're going to be just another guy, little small figure in the machine, and you're not going to get, the success that at least I wanted.
Yeah.
So I said the real thing for a person is in games is you have to own the studio, you have to own your IPs, you have to understand what the business of games is.
Yeah.
So I came back with the promise to myself that in 10 years, I will learn everything. This is the start. It was 10 years ago. And it will equip me to understand how great games are made, how they monetize, and how a business is built.
Crazy.
That's pretty much my journey to the point where I started working in the Indian games industry.
Nice. How did Zynga happen?
So I was working at a company called Photon Tadpole.
This is the same company that you're talking about when you... another interesting thing that I wanted to understand from you is a lot of youngsters, when they're looking for opportunities, they keep on asking this question that what is the cap, or how much can I earn in this one particular domain, say game design or say product. You said a very interesting thing where you wanted to kind of be the owner or the product owner of it. Having that mindset actually changes the whole game for you. To be honest, what I feel is the Indian gaming ecosystem today is at a very early stage where if you are able to crack a great rapport with a team, do amazing work, have that kind of bond with the team, it's very easy for you to get to a CXO level at a very fast pace. you don't have to spend like 10-15 years into it. I think like from most of my guys also grew to that stage because we had that kind of
Correct.
rapport and the belief that okay, if this guy has taken this thing under his
Ownership, yeah.
ownership, he's going to just kill it, like it's just
Absolutely.
do amazing stuff. But yeah, interesting that you had that mindset when you were coming here, and it, I would say, like it did well for you for the last 10 years.
God has been kind. But yeah, it worked out. So I was at Photon Dad for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Worked with, so the founder is Rishi Oberoi. Great guy, did a lot for me in that regard.
Yeah.
Learned a lot of what to do, some of what not to do, as is usual. But we built a good team. I was, I guess, his lead game designer at that point. You're so small that you know how it is. You wear all the hats.
Yeah.
I've done art, animation, random product work, whatever we had to do, we did.
And I think your journey from coding to learning the 3D softwares to this,
it all helps.
Together helps building great products.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when it comes to being a game developer, part of it is just you have to have a voracious appetite for consuming content.
Yeah.
And you have to be a sponge for knowledge. They say that you should be a Renaissance person. Just know all sorts of random stuff.
Yeah.
Have GK about all odd things because inspiration comes from everywhere.
Yeah.
I think psychology or social psychology is a very valuable thing for game designers to learn and at least do something with regards to economics, stats, and math.
Yeah, I remember this one thing. The very first day of my first job at India Games, my senior game producer gave me a 1,000 pages Greek mythology book.
Yeah, super.
Like he said, you don't have to do any work till I tell you what the next thing to do is. Read this complete book. And I was like, what am I doing?
Super. That's a smart.
But then I slowly realized, okay, being a game designer is not easy, to be very honest. You have to know a lot of stuff. You have to consume a lot of stuff so that you can actually build good stuff, right? It's like if you want to make a great movie, you have to watch great movies.
This is when you think about the news, what do you think of the new Star Wars films?
Honestly, I'm not a great Star Wars addict or a fan, but I don't keep a track of that.
So the reason I mentioned that is because if you watch the old Star Wars, the first 6 movies, and then the new stuff, there's a big difference in quality. And the reason is that J.J. Abrams, who made Star Wars 7 and 9, his reference for Star Wars films are Star Wars films. But George Lucas bases it on classic John Campbell's hero's journey, on Arthurian legends of wizards and magic swords and heroes, the hero's journey, right? And samurai movies, Akira Kurosawa samurai films and westerns. Rian Johnson, who did The Last Jedi, makes it around a war film of the 1950s. And the whole idea is, the reason 7 and 9 are so bad and so badly received is, and I don't like them, I'll say it publicly, is because he's looking at exactly what the formula is and then copying that. He has no reference for originality.
Got it.
I think one of the big pain points that I see with young developers who come to me these days is that they don't read enough.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you need to consume play lots of games. Don't just stick to the 5, don't stick to the Assassin's Creed and the Gods of War.
Yeah.
God of Wars.
God of War.
How do you put that in plural? But just pick up random indie games. Look at the ones that fail. Yeah. Read lots of comics, read lots of old fantasy books, I have a whole long laundry list of this. But yeah, they just don't. So then they pick up the same tropey ideas of, that you've read in Brandon Sanderson or something. I'm like, hey, then if you're reading the same books that everyone's reading, you're thinking the same thoughts.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
Yeah.
There's this one, what do you call it? How long were you at Zynga?
So I was at Photon Dad for about nearly 3 years, 2.5 years, and at Zynga I was there for just about a year.
Just about a year. And there is this thing called Zynga Mafia.
It's a term, yeah.
But very I'm very curious to understand why. Because like, just to put it out in context, most of the founders, the good founders, great companies that exist today in India in gaming scene are ex-Zyngas,
Yeah.
and they call them the Zynga Mafia.
Yeah.
Like they worked at Zynga
Yeah.
for some time. What is that one thing that they learn from Zynga?
I think more than anything else, it's actually just relationships and network. But in terms of, if you look at the broad milieu of Indian game studios today, there's so much knowledge that is very siloed, right? And hopefully in this podcast, over your series, this will get unpacked more and more. But the idea is, let's go back, right? 10 years. Zynga comes to India. There's EA, there's Zynga. Chalo, Ubisoft is also there. But the place where the meaningful work is being done is in Zynga. And chalo, EA as well.
Yeah.
And so when you work at these places where they've already cracked a business, they figured out how the game scales and monetize. These games are in the top 10. Some of them are the genre-defining games.
Yeah.
Farmville is not the first farming game, but nobody thinks about Heyday or whatever else that came out. They think about Farmville as the Will style games, or as Zynga calls it, invest and express games.
Okay.
Right? As Sensor Tower calls it, simulation. So you go in there and you suddenly realize what it means to work in a massive machine where there's process, where there are solutions and answers to everything. All those problems have been solved, and as a Zynga employee, you have to do it well, but you know where the answers, the knowledge is there.
Okay.
It's the same logic of why people say working at Ubisoft is so valuable. They say the money isn't good, although I don't know. But the knowledge base is so strong. Ubisoft created Prince of Persia, and it's one of the classic games that define us. You learn all those things. And because Zynga on the east, no, in Bangalore's not the east coast, but in Bangalore was the one big funnel point, right? The start of the funnel. Many people began their careers there.
Yeah.
And it pays you very well. It takes care of you in so many ways. So they learn culture, they learn mindset, they learn process. There are downsides to it also.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's also the relationships.
Okay.
You've met people across every discipline. You know who to hire. You know how to work together. You know what are good playbooks to follow.
I think this was one of the earliest international companies that came to India.
They changed the face of the market.
Yeah.
Also because they paid international rates.
Yeah.
People have made retirement level money working. It's great.
Because all I remember was EA games, EA Mobile, I think. EA Mobile and a company called Gameloft, which then Ubisoft probably, or was it a part of that?
Gameloft is still around.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, but I only remember these two companies existed, and then Zynga just drops a bomb. And then I also remember we had a conversation once about Zynga doing boot camps. When you actually join Zynga, there is like not like boot camp, but like a certain period where you go through the processes, their inbuilt processes, and you learn stuff.
They actually have something called a PM boot camp.
Okay.
Where like I said, it's just they take you through all the processes, the knowledge, the solutions. They have Excel, they have entire sheets, models, notes, guidelines. There are playbooks that are actually written.
Yeah. That
you can follow, and then they take you through the whole thing.
Awesome, man.
It's a learning of a lifetime.
Awesome. I think this is something that actually relates a lot to me now at this stage, because we started building Mukti in February. Before that, we had all these smaller prototypes, vertical slices. We pitched it to Sony and all, but the real work started in February. I'll tell you very honestly, the moment Sony came in February, the whole mindset changed.
Absolutely.
They came in. The first thing they did was they changed the whole pipeline of work that we used to do. The art pipeline was changed, the tech pipeline, the version control, everything got changed. And we were like, what the fuck is happening, dude? Because we never heard of these things. We never heard of these tools that we are working on today. We never heard of the processes. what we are trying to do, exactly what you mentioned about what Zynga has, right? It's all written, it's all documented.
Yeah.
We are fortunate enough that we got this opportunity. We are making sure that every call or every conversation that we have with Sony is documented,
Absolutely.
so that it becomes like a DNA for the company for the next 10 years that we operate.
I think when it comes to just the characteristics of successful games businesses, there are two sort of pieces, right? One, which you've touched upon before, is the idea of the brain trust, right? Ed Catmull sort of writes about it in his book also, the Creativity Inc., right? The Pixar story, where, when people invest in a company or publishers look at you, they look at the capability of the team. And that is just the creative output of a group of people and their ability to work well together or synergistically. And the other one is the institutional knowledge, which is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Sony's teaching you this, Zynga has this, Ubisoft has this. That corpus of institutional knowledge means that a new person knows exactly how they fit in and what needs to be done.
Correct.
If they're the only person in the room, they should know where to look for the knowledge and the information. Yeah.
Crazy, man. I mean, this would actually, if this continues in India and more, sort of these international standards come in, I think the course of how the companies operate in India would also change drastically.
It's, I think, the Silicon Valley effect also, right? Talent clusters in a place, they grow and they mature and they explode. They go to other places. Explosion in a good way, that they leave to start new businesses. In the last couple of years, we've seen that. People leaving big studios, good jobs,
Yeah.
leaving money on the table to start and take a bet on themselves.
Yeah.
We see it across the homegrown businesses, the Jet Synthesises, we see Super Gaming, we see guys leaving Zynga, EA, Scopely, whatever, to get going. And that is happening now. Give it 5-6 more years, it'll all be...
Absolutely. I wish, we see some great successes from India. So this journey started with, I think you did a lot of different stuff, man, from coding, design, and stuff. And then eventually you turned towards the venture capital fund.
Yeah, so...
First, I want to just chip in before that. First, tell me why. Because the passion that you are even talking about this stuff, I clearly feel that you are made to make games. What made you shift to a venture capital fund to work with?
So it was, going back, the idea was, the promise I made to myself is in 10 years, I'm going to be ready to start my own business. I'm going to have savings. I'm going to have knowledge. When I go out the gate, I am betting on myself, having built up the confidence and mental peace and security.
Yeah.
So I did Photon Dapol, then I did Zynga. I did BYJU'S for a while. I was at BYJU'S for about 2.5-3 years as well. Left in about 2021 when it was a good place, did some good work there with great people. And then I consulted for some time, worked with Eros for a little bit as well on a AAA game they were trying to do, Brahmastra type thing.
Yeah. I was also called for that.
But not the best experience of my life, but it was still a good learning again and what not to do.
Yeah.
And maybe why I'll think twice about media companies now.
Yeah.
But and then I started consulting in the games industry, and I was just reflecting on, look, now there's a ceiling that I've hit in this job. I'm not going to learn anything terribly new because the next few places I'll get jobs are all mobile live ops. I didn't really want to move abroad. I firmly believe in the India story. I think this is where the next big hits of the world are going to come out.
Yeah.
And I want to be there for that. And I mean, I do a lot for this industry. I love this community.
Yeah.
So I also felt that about 2-3 years ago that, okay, now I've done all of this, is it the time to start up? So I started ideating, thinking. I kind of knew what I'd wanted to do. I'd done the research over the years. I'd skilled up. My career has only been mostly in puzzle, strategy games, narrative games, but mostly puzzle, strategy, and math-heavy content.
Yeah.
And around that time, I was doing consulting work, and I came upon Centercourt Capital, the VCs with whom I worked. They were new. They were also starting out. They wanted someone who could help build a games thesis out.
Yeah.
And I was also like, I like these people. And there was I felt there was a very strong learning there, or an opportunity for me to also learn the business of games, the side of what does it take to manage money well? How do you build a good company? This was the piece of knowledge that was missing for me also.
Yeah.
And sort of in my workings with them, with the time I spent with them, we built a very symbiotic relationship where they taught me about finance, about business thinking. I think a lot of good professional behaviors that sometimes are lacking in games businesses sort of were drilled into me. And we can talk about that as well. And in return, I also taught them about video games. And I don't think a team of finance and very corporate business oriented people expect to learn about video games. But I would give them homework on video games that you must play Hades, play what's that game called Oxenfree, or play Royal Match. And then we would break those things down. And that also
they did all that.
Oh, very diligently. They were very good about it, and yeah, so we both learned from each other. And for me, it was a puzzle piece fitting into place. That's really what it was. Yeah.
God. So it was like a conscious choice of you.
Very deliberately.
Want to.
How many creative guys, whether you're a lead designer or a creative director, get a chance to do finance and business? Nobody gives you that shot.
Yeah, no, now when I think about it, I think it's a great practice because again, game developers in India are mostly creative folks, right? And they don't understand business. Firstly, they don't understand business, and then they don't understand the VC side of the business.
Correct.
So because you were a part of it, I want you to just segregate the types of fund in general, because I remember I did a lot of mistakes in my early career where I actually required only 100K.
Yeah.
But I was, wasting my time speaking to VCs.
Yeah.
Which now I realize how stupid I was to do all that shit, right? Because they were looking at like a growth stage, like $1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, and I was wasting their time, wasting my time, getting demotivated by it. And I think most of the people today, I feel, are going through the same stage.
Yeah.
Can you just segregate these funds and what stages probably anyone can speak to them?
Absolutely. I think we can also just touch upon the kind of thought process that is needed when you go to a VC, right? So if you look at the sources of funding for games, right, the traditional approach is build something, go to a publisher, fish it around, and a publisher will bite, and you will get your development cost.
Yeah.
Right. And then apart from that, you can either fund it yourself if you have the good fortune to be able to afford that, or you do a services business, make the money to build a project that you can see a hockey stick with. And then you go to VCs. Right. Now, in VCs, you have the angel funds, essentially where individuals who have made some money or have money that they're seeking to put in or play around with will come together as a syndicate. I suppose that's what it's called.
These are HNIs.
It could be people like you and me, wherever it's as much as putting a few lakhs in, but it's 20 of us putting in 3 lakhs each becomes 60 lakhs.
Yeah.
And 60 lakhs takes you a long way.
Yeah.
For example, random number.
Yeah.
Going to those is one vector, and they will come in at an idea stage, at what is called a pre-seed stage.
Got it.
Because they relate to the founder. They just want to understand that you have business sense and that you have common sense. That their money will not be used to go buy a house or a car for someone, instead be used to build a business.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of money that comes to you, but it's enough to hire the team, get started. Right?
And they don't need traction, they don't need downloads. It's just on the vertical slice or the ideation.
No, it's pre-seed.
Even before.
It's a mix of things. People will look at you saying, what is the experience of this founder?
Yeah, the credibility.
of this founder. They'll do a background check. They'll ask around you. If you have a game, then nothing like it. It just makes the case stronger.
Yeah.
Because their risk is also so low, 5, 6 lakhs, 8 lakhs. If they're putting it towards this, it means they can afford to lose it. Right. At this level, a single angel investor will do something like 200-300 investments so that 1 or 2 does well.
Correct.
But they're doing 8 lakhs here, 2 lakhs, 1 lakh, whatever they can.
Yeah.
Right. The bigger ones can do 15, 20, 30, whatever.
Yeah.
And one will make them 20, 30 crores or even 10 crores and they've made the whole thing back.
Yeah.
Which is sort of how you do the math there. And then from there, you'd go to an institutional VC. That's the term. And these are corporate entities. They are there's a lot of structure and formal process.
What is so coming back to this angel networks? So angel networks like Mumbai Angels, Indian Angels. What is the ticket size usually they do?
I think that varies, but they do small checks, 100K, 200K, 500K,
Max.
Yeah. But typically, one angel fund will probably do $300,000.
Okay.
So let's say 1 to 4 crores.
Okay.
Is a clean sort of range to think about.
Okay.
I might be a little wrong here, but
that depends on
yeah. And you go to 1-2 angels and say, look, angel network, and say, boss, please give me. They'll put 150, 150, 150. Oh,
yeah, you're sorted.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Then you said there's institutional fund. These are seed funds you're talking about?
Seed funds. So then everybody has their own thesis.
Okay.
Right? And operating logic of, that sort of gives them decisions and all. I think it's important to sort of highlight that VCs as a whole don't necessarily understand or deeply understand the spaces they invest in. Right? I mean, I'm saying this very broadly. When you have many VCs will come to you and say, we are sector agnostic.
Yeah.
So if they're coming and saying they're sector agnostic, then they're not going to understand the deep nuances of medical technology.
Yeah, they would be knowing something about everything.
Kuch to know, but they understand business well.
Correct.
They will look at the characteristics of the business and say, okay, I don't really care what you're selling, as long as it's maybe not an inappropriate or unethical thing. Product. But tell me how your business will become something of value. And they'll judge you more on the basis of that. When we go specifically to gaming now, you've got more and more funds that say they are gaming focused. Some are sector agnostic, but now they also reserve capital for gaming.
Yeah.
Right. And some are only games only or interactive media only and whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody has a thesis which governs what they look for in a business, what stage they want to come in, and what their appetite for risk is. Right. And it changes from everybody to everybody. There's no good answer for this. But you'd have a fund that will say, okay, you've got some traction, you've got a D1 retention on mobile. I feel this is comfortable enough for me, and the founder's pedigree is very good. Chalo, we'll give you X amount of money. And that would be a little bit more money. Let's say 1 million to 3 million.
Got it.
That would be called a Series A.
Series A.
Right? That means you've got a business, it's operating, everything is structurally in place, and you are doing business.
Yeah.
Your studio is a going concern, as they say. Others will say, no, we are growth stage investors. That's Series B, Series C, which means that the amount of money you're looking for is more.
And you should be a revenue making company already. That's the growth stage, no?
Pretty much. You will be making good money at that point in time. Okay. You're trying to now. The idea is that at growth stage, you build a business. The business is making respectable money.
Okay.
You are already on an upward trajectory, but with the infusion of this large chunk, you will go like this.
Hockey stick. Yeah.
You'll go fast.
Got it.
The fund I worked in was about pre-Series A, typically, which many funds are then that space where they will look for some proof that this business is a real business.
Got it.
They'll want the team in place. They'll want you to be compliance ready, which means that as a business, you'll have to be private limited, you'll have to have a startup India.
The basics of it.
The bog standard, unexciting stuff. Yeah. Every business does it.
Yeah.
They'll need, and they need to see that you have product.
Got it.
You have to have a product, you have to have some metrics. It doesn't matter if the product is failing, but have something.
Yeah.
And then people build around that and they build their conviction around it.
Got it. Tell me, like in general, how does this is not specific to gaming, but just for the knowledge transfer or sharing. How does a VC make money?
Okay. So the way a VC gets money is through something called limited partners. So if I am a VC, I will set up my business, I will build my thesis, then I will go to people, whoever they may be, and say, look, I am looking for investment in my fund.
Okay.
If you believe in what I'm doing and my ability to get you a return on investment, then please give me money. It's very simple terms.
Okay.
The check sizes are, of course, much, much, much larger. This would be companies
and
1, 2,
and these people are companies or individuals who have
It's a
a
good
lot of
mix of-
money
Yeah.
who can put in your fund, money in your fund.
In fact, you even have things called fund of funds, which are funds which give money to other funds.
Yeah.
Right. So you gather all that money.
Yeah. So you have money to put in companies now.
You pool the money, 5, 10, 20, 100 million, $1 billion, whatever you can get, right? And then you will now take that money and you will invest in other companies. The metrics on this are you'll invest in 10 guys and one will do well.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe 5 will do okay. But one will do so well that if you raise $10 million, you will make $20 million on that one guy. So you have returned the fund. Now, when you make that money back, a percentage of that comes to the fund itself. The rest goes back to the investors who have given you the money.
Okay.
That's pretty much
and that's like
metrics.
The profit of it. Like the percentage is kept by the VC firm, and
it's a commission fee, however it's
how much percentage usually
that varies. You can go from 2 to 20 to whatever. That depends. Like if you look at something like an A16Z, which is one of the world's most famous funds, they manage some billions of dollars of assets. I mean, even 1% of that is still a stupid amount of money.
Yeah.
I would not be able to comment on that. I wouldn't know the numbers there. It changes.
Yeah, I remember speaking to a very big VC in India, and me and my brother also went to that VC.
Yeah.
I don't want to name them, but he loved the whole pitch.
Yeah.
Everything happened. He was also giving us examples of, we are not really shy about investing in 2 companies with same games because we believe Tencent probably SoftBank did that with Clash of Clans, and then they invested the same amount of money in a clone of Clash of Clans. But then he was stuck on one particular thing. He was asking me that what is the recipe for a successful game, and we were blank. We were young. We couldn't answer that question. We were blank. We went home. And then, while I was like in the shower, I was thinking, oh fuck, there is no recipe for this. There's no recipe like you bring in Salman Khan, you make 100 crore movie and that would probably make 200 crore movie. You put some songs, at least in Bollywood at that point of time. Today, there's nothing like this.
Yeah.
But at that point of time, there was a recipe for Bollywood where you bring in all these A-listers and you do. And I was in the shower and I was thinking, oh shit. And a week later, I was at a incubator where the partner of this same fund came to that event, and I got a chance to speak to him for 5 minutes, and I was like, the question was asked by the co-founder. So I told him this conversation happened with him, but he asked me about this recipe.
Yeah.
I now remember an answer to that. Just hear me out. Okay. And I told him that, look, there is no answer for this. Just like you invest in 10 companies, 8 of them fail.
Yeah.
One of them does decent. Yeah. One of them works well. The talent that you guys have is to figure out of those 4,000 applications, you figure out 500 good ones. Then you filter out the 20 good ones, and then you invest in 10.
Correct.
That is your expertise.
Correct.
We get 4,000 ideas every day.
Absolutely.
We filter out those ideas and we make 10 games out of which one will do good.
Yeah.
There's no recipe, but like you have talent in filtering those, we have talent in, he's like, dude, did you tell this to my co-founder? So no, I didn't get a chance. I didn't think of that. So you should have told him that.
That's a great answer, actually. Yeah, even I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, there is no recipe, man. Like what everybody is trying today in the industry also. Everybody is just trying to build that. And I think bigger companies, they have that model.
It will surprise you that it's chaotic everywhere.
Yeah.
The reason Ubisoft does 900 Assassin's Creeds is because they know that Assassin's Creed has a dedicated audience and they just give them more of the same.
Yeah.
An example that may sadden some people is the story of Supergiant. Every game they do, they start with Bastion. Bastion goes to Transistor. Transistor is a turn-based kind of thing. Bastion is a hack and slash arcade feel. Transistor to Pyre. Pyre is a top class game. sports, fantasy sports, and then they do Hades, and Hades becomes Hades 2.
Yeah.
Because they're like, Hades was their hockey stick, now they
Yeah.
do more of the same. Because they've cracked a formula that works specifically for them.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, if we decide to do an Assassin's Creed, there's no telling if we'll do well.
Yeah.
The other piece that people tend to neglect when it comes to the recipe for success is distribution. Ubisoft has cracked its distribution because they know that now their IP Assassin's Creed is so popular, they don't need to do too much to get it in front of people.
Yeah.
People know Assassin's Creed aa raha hai, I have to follow it, I will buy it. Hades 2 has done so much in pre-orders, it's made back the cost of development already.
Yeah.
The game is still in early access, it'll release next year, and it's already minted money like there's no tomorrow.
Crazy, man. Crazy shit.
That's the trick, right?
Yeah.
Nobody can solve that day one. You
Yeah.
have to just keep doing it.
A lot of myths
Mm.
around the VC community, with the VC funds and all.
Yeah.
Since you worked with them, tell me like any myths that you that people believe about funding in general or VC.
I think funding in general I can talk about because myths don't. Okay, so I think if we just go back to our experiences also trying to fundraise, one of the things, or if I look at the way people have even come to me in the past, showing me pitches
Yeah.
and how I used to think about games and the appeal of my product before was that. So let's break down the thought process of a game dev, right? That as a breed, we're also product focused. That there's a bias that says my idea is a great idea,
Yeah.
and when I come to you and show you my idea, you're going to love it,
Yeah.
and you're going to be as excited about it as me. If I come and say my game is about Greek mythology where a kid doesn't get along with his dad and he's going to wreck the house on the way out, or I'm going to tell you some whatever game, right? You as a VC are going to care, right? But the truth is that as an investor, you see hundreds of things every day.
Yeah.
And after a point, all of them began to look the same. And then you are no longer affected by this. Instead, you're looking for the deeper meaning, the deeper drivers of the business. It's not philosophical yet. But you're trying to understand what makes this business tick, right? I have personally looked at 400 games companies in India. And before I joined this business, I didn't know there were 400 games companies.
Yeah.
Because
It's
off
surprising.
the bat, I can name 20. Now, chalo. And a lot of them will come and their deck is just about their game.
Yeah.
And it's the whole
Classic
history.
Yeah.
They put everything in there because I think people get scared. And they're like, okay, I'll just say everything that needs to go in there. But that doesn't work. It doesn't actually communicate what needs to be communicated effectively.
Yeah.
So the first myth I think I can really touch upon is that an institutional investor is not looking at your game. Your game needs to be good, but they will measure. They cannot tell you the genre is good. They will trust you in that. They trust in your capability to build a good product. What they look at is, does this game look and feel good? Does it make sense? Does it play as a pure end user? Does it just generally feel like fun?
Yeah.
So if you come in making big promises, depending on how excited you get someone and their willingness to take risks, they might invest. Or if you come in making something very practical but a little humble, they might say this is not exciting enough. That is unique to each VC. But the big myth is VCs care about your game. No, they care about your studio. They care about the business around your game and how you will turn that IP, your game, into many games, into a workable, sensible business that will eventually get sold so that they can make money.
Yeah.
This is not altruistic. This is the most capitalist, way to, it is the business.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's a big thing I think developers should understand if it's right for them.
Yeah.
Second myth that people think about VC also is that VCs only like mobile. End of the day, an investor does not objectively, meaningfully care if you're making a PC game or a mobile game or a VR game or whatever, right? I think one of the big pieces that an investor cares about is the inherent risk in making a PC game.
Okay.
Right? Versus a mobile game. And this is also going back to an earlier point in our conversation, the idea of institutional knowledge, right, and how it's gone into the public domain. If you want to learn about mobile games, mobile game design, good practices, there is so much out there. The rise of mobile games has been in tandem with the rise of the internet, with the rise of YouTube, with streaming, with so many other things, with blogging, that there's a lot of knowledge out there.
Yeah.
So, as an investor who never cared about games per se and has never needed to, I know it's crazy to believe, but there are people there who never knew games were a thing.
Yeah.
They will go on the internet, for example, and they will read up on deconstructor of fun because that's the first link you normally get.
Yeah.
And they will read about D1 retention, D30 retention. They'll read about some monetization IAP. Now, if you tell them about your innovation in monetization on the store level, it has no meaning because that knowledge is still fairly surface level, right? This is not an insult. It's just a function of this doesn't matter beyond the point, right? Right? But they're looking at the language and then they look at PC and there is no knowledge about PC because the 40 years of learnings have never, they're all gated. If you want to look at old GDC videos, where do you go find it?
Yeah.
It's all in the GDC vault until it comes out later. But so much of it is gate kept. Everyone's like, my secret sauce is super secret and I will have you shot if you try to find out, right?
Yeah.
But mobile mein to everything is out there. So it's easier to understand mobile.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing about good mobile F2P, I mean, from a business sense, is that it looks like SaaS. And VCs understand SaaS.
Yeah.
You're making money every month. It is consistent. You can, here are some of the drivers you need to get to the hockey stick.
Yeah. I think that's closer to the generic product model.
It's easier to understand that. There are playbooks, there are references, there are business case studies that, this worked. Historically, investment in production houses was not the business of an institutional investor. The risk profile is too high. Think of it from an investor standpoint, if I have to give you $1 million, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going to make the next big game out of wherever, right? And you're going to spend everything you have on that one game for 1 year, 2 years. Games go on 5 years ka development.
Yeah.
And then you make no money.
Yeah.
My money is down the drain. You're out of business. Studio is shutting down.
Yeah.
And so how do that's too risky for me.
Yeah. And that's kind of a global problem as well. Look what happened with Concord.
Correct.
Yeah.
Bad marketing.
Yeah.
Great game.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. But yeah, so the risk profile is so high. But objectively, if you were to say, I am making a premium game, I have 100,000 wish lists. My game is going to launch soon. I need this for good marketing and I have strong evidence, strong quantitative evidence that I will get my sales. I just need the money. There is a high chance that you will get the money you want, right? But it means that you have to have already done the work. And at that point, do you really need money from an investor?
Yeah.
Maybe not, right? Maybe when you're at a growth stage, you're saying, look, I've built my distribution capabilities. I have my analytics, my publishing, and I'm building premium games. But we know that cut. We build a great pipeline in the back end.
Yeah.
Then you are creating things that de-risk the investor. They can feel comfort. But in India, the number of new companies has exploded only in the last 4 or 5 years. So everyone is early and we're not seeing enough successes yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I had this question actually, whether, why do you think there are not many investments happening in PC and console today? Yeah. And I think you answered most of it.
It's just the characteristics of risk.
Yeah.
I want to make PC games in my life, but I realize that it's only when I am willing to shoulder that burden myself because I can't take it to somebody else. But a publisher is perfect for that.
Yeah. Again, this is another interesting question that I had is, let's say a game developer has a vertical slice. He's probably worked on it for 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. He has a nice little vertical slice. Where should he go?
So it depends on the nature of the game. If you're making something that's on mobile and you have a product, and the amount of money you need is the right amount of money, certainly you should go to an investor,
Okay.
a VC.
Okay.
If you have,
That's because you're saying that because probably in a month or so, 2 months or so, I'll do a soft launch. I'll start seeing numbers.
you'll get traction.
You'll see numbers, and that's why a VC would be interested, or a smaller investor would be interested.
And I think another underlying thought over there is the idea that, okay, chalo, the guy's done the work. In 3 months, he's not going to have burnt all my money. If I give him $1 million, for example, that's 8 crores.
Yeah.
Right? He's not going to have lost it all, which means that even if game one doesn't do well, he can make a variant, or they can make a variant. They can make 3-4 games. They can pivot. They have breathing room. So the risk is lowered.
Got it.
A publisher, on the other hand, say, okay, your game is in a good spot. I'll cover the rest of your cost and we'll do your marketing and get you going.
Got it.
But then your margin is lower. So there's a trade-off.
because you do revenue share with the publisher.
So what is the publisher's model, right? Gross revenue to store after store cut. So 100 to store, 70 goes to publisher.
Yeah.
UA cost, marketing cost is 50, for example. UA is so horrible these days. You're not, then 20 is left. And then out of that, a publisher will say, chalo, I want 25, 30%. So you as a developer get 15, 16 out of 100. It's 50. It's horrible. But you survive as a business.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but I still feel like you rightly spoke about the mobile side of it.
Yeah.
But I still feel it's way too difficult to get an investor for a VC and console, even with a vertical slice.
Yeah.
Because I think today, at least in India, we don't have that mindset, or probably because of lack of case studies, we don't have a lot of investors who can gamble on a vertical slice for PC and console at this stage.
The onus when you're making PC and console games is on the developer, and the bet they're taking is that the developer can deliver content at high quality. And where in India are we making the next Wukong, for example?
Yeah.
Not yet, at least. So the publisher, the developer, how does an investor measure your capability to do that? Because everyone can talk.
Yeah.
But who has worked in PC to give them the security that, okay, this person has done it before? Because otherwise, what an investor is doing is giving you money to pay your knowledge tax. That's how they'll see it, right? The risk is too high, and the drivers for the risk are hard to solve.
Got it.
Not the drivers for risk, but the risk is hard to solve. How do you mitigate that when it's just a function of quality? That's a scary thing for someone who's also answering to a higher power.
Yeah.
That's the real problem. It's not that they don't like the game or don't want it. I've played some fabulous games that the Indian industry is making, and really the talent is insane. I have respect for them, and I'm glad I'm not competing for jobs with them. But but no, it's a thing of the characteristics of the business are not right. It's not their fault. No one's to blame. It's just not the right fit.
Got it.
But hey, maybe an F2P PC mobile game makes sense. There are good characteristics. If you have a pipeline for distribution, lots of things can be made to work. It's at least a platform. You can sell VR also. People will invest in VR.
Yeah. What about IGDC? There is a lot of conversation going on, about IGDC and how IGDC could be useful for game developers
100%.
and all that. I think you and me believe that it's a must attend conference. Tell me your reasons for that.
IGDC has personally been very good to me as well. Right. When I came into this industry in 2016, right, Jan 2nd, 2016, I started working in India.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about who to meet, where to meet people. We sat in our office in Bombay and met no other game developers, and you feel very lonely. A very honest reason.
Yeah.
And you actually come to a conference which is in many ways the melting pot. I hear the old stories by Anando, Rajesh, all the original organizers of the conference and the conveners, and 60 guys in the room drinking chai. And that's how it started, in a small hall in, I think, Pune or Bombay or something. Today it's 5, 6, 7,000 people.
Yeah.
This is the only conference that matters in India for games.
True.
I mean, I know the government has whatever, and there are a bunch of other things, but this one is video games content for video game developers. If you aren't coming, and you don't have to, but you're missing out on, you're not where the action is.
Yeah.
just think that's fundamentally what it is. It is the most respectable conference a lot, and it's genuinely, the work is good.
Yeah.
Look at the speakers we're getting this year. There's Jordan Wiseman, the guy who did BattleTech at Shadowrun. We've got the guys who did Just Cause. We've got Hades, like Amir Rao to come and speak.
Yeah.
Slay the Spire. I mean, you pay 2 lakhs plus, your airfare to go to GDC to meet these guys, and you come to India to Hyderabad, and you spend less than the price of the GDC ticket or the flight to just come and speak to the same international speakers. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of this curated by volunteers.
All of us are volunteers, you, me, everybody else. Yeah. I mean, we have jobs.
Yeah.
There's nothing that comes out of it. We pay for our own flights, man. But it's just the good work.
It's a
I love
love.
this conference,
Yeah, it's a love for the community. It's a love for gaming.
Absolutely.
Like it's like giving back to the community. For me, it's a life-changing conference.
150%.
I was like a very shy introvert kind of.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in a corner, like standing in a corner at IGDC in 2013.
Yeah.
Nobody knew me. I didn't know anyone.
Absolutely.
I used to always see the bunch of India Games folks always there on stage. And I always used to think, I should go and speak to them. But I didn't have enough balls to go and speak to them at that time. One fine day, I just made a decision to give a talk at IGDC in 2014. Then it was like a butterfly effect. I'll be very honest. One thing led to another. People who saw my talk called me for a delegation to USA. NASCOM took us to USA. There we met Google Play. A lot of things. Like I can sit and talk for 2 hours of how IGDC changed my life.
Honestly, the conference has been super good to me too. I met everyone who matters to me in that in this industry, present company included. I met at the conference. And I mean, at what going, I have this very core memory in 2016 of sitting on the floor in the night in one of those halls with 40 other game devs, including the team from Paradox. And everyone is drinking beer and just chatting and talking about their love for games. And that's how you make friends. That's how you build networks.
Absolutely.
Today, the conference has higher standards. Now, the quality of speakers is also, the bar is so high. And, the level of finish and, the effort that's put in is also, now we have dev days. There's so much that happens. It's meaningful.
Now it happens all throughout the year.
All throughout the year.
We do a lot of events.
I mean, who else is doing it?
No
one gets paid. No one gets anything. It's literally just volunteer work. So,
crazy stuff.
I mean, I know people don't like it, people are whatever, but I think it's meaningful and good work and honest work.
People have their own opinions, so might as well.
Haters will be haters. That's okay.
All right, to wrap it up, tell me, what is Shagun doing these days?
So Shagun has gone back to making video games.
Amazing.
I think, just going along the old plan. I think 10 years of respectable work. Although I'm sure some career counsels are still turning in their grave. Have a startup, have a small games business now. Making something fun.
You haven't announced anything.
It's all very hush-hush.
Nice.
But, come to IGDC. You'll see. But yeah, we've been doing...
But this is PC, console, mobile?
We are doing mobile.
Okay.
I firmly believe mobile is where it's at.
Okay.
We are doing, if I had to say, we'd say mobile PC cross-platform, but it is primarily mobile work, Play to your strengths, build fast. That's how we see it. And the way I look at games also now is that it's a business. I love games, and that is going to help me build good games with the team, but these games need to make money. So Absolutely. It is ultimately that. We're doing something fun though. We're trying to put a good spin on it and do the work lovingly. So we have some good fun things to show as well.
Great, man. Thank
you.
And wish you all the best for the new journey.
Yeah.
Coming. It was a great, fun chat.
Yes, the Great Indian Gaming Podcast, episode number 1.
Yeah, here we go.
Chalo.
If you reached to this part in the episode, I'm very sure you've liked the conversation that we had. If you like the video, please leave a like and start a conversation in the comment section below. We've also added the links to our guest in the description, so please do check out. Also, if you're finding this video or the channel for the first time, do consider subscribing to the channel, because that will help us bring in more amazing guests on this podcast series. That's it for this episode. Thank you for watching the video.